Welcome to the Job Search Podcast with your host, John Rivero, where we will be interviewing leading industry experts to help you get the job that you want. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Canadian Job Search Podcast. My name is John Rivero, your host, and we've got a very special guest with us this week, which is Valerie Lay. Valerie is a career confidence coach, a career development practitioner, and a youth career program showrunner. And she'll explain a little bit more about that as we get into the show. Well, welcome to the show, Valerie.
Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate being here with you.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that you and I, we get to have this conversation together. Just to provide a little bit of a backstory on how we met, we met a few years ago. I think it's 2 years ago at an event. Actually, I think you were coming out of the subway and you're like, "Hey, how do I get to this thing?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm going there too. So let's just walk over together." And from that, we've stemmed and created this relationship. And I talk about the importance of networking to my audience quite a bit. And you never know who you're going to run into that's going to be potentially a future partner, somebody who can potentially hire you in the future. And it's really around maintaining and keeping that relationship alive. So I'm really glad that we got to do that, because here you are today, as a guest on my podcast. And, I had the opportunity to be a speaker or a mentor in one of your speed mentoring events just last month. And it's you never know where these things are going to take you. You just got to be open to it, right? So
100%.
I'm so happy that you're here to share some information with our audience members, especially since, from what I've seen and heard of you, and you just being in action, I can tell like you're very committed to helping people get into the job and really succeed. And today I know our focus is going to be in and around mentoring and coaching. So I'm so happy to have you here, Valerie, just to share that information with the audience.
Great. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate being here, like I said, as well. I'm so happy that we're able to keep in touch. And actually, the first time I met you was when you were hosting the Fearless Voices event.
Oh, yes.
That's right. And that's how we met there and I recognized you. So seeing you at the subway, I'm so glad we could reconnect.
Yeah. Yeah. And just for everybody listening, like you said, those things that kind of seem coincidental aren't necessarily coincidental. So always keep an open mind to what might, happen in the future. So that's good. So Valerie, so I know today we're going to dig into the topic of mentoring and coaching, because I know one of the questions I get asked quite a bit is, do I need a mentor? Do I need a coach as I'm going through the job search? And I know you have your own little story about that. So why don't you just, let's start with that. Share your story on, mentoring and coaching.
Thank you so much, John. So my story goes a little way back. I'm going to start with the year 2017. So I was living abroad in South Korea for 2 years. It was my first time abroad. It was a great experience. I actually hired a coach myself shortly before going on my big adventure. A coach you also know, who spoke at at that event I met you at, actually.
Nice.
And she helped me out a lot. I prepared myself as much as I could for my big adventure. Had a great time teaching there, but I was also extremely burned out. And I came back after 2 years, rough circumstance, death in the family, and just had to rebuild myself over from, being quite at the bottom of the barrel in terms of my confidence, and having to figure out and navigate what to do next with my life. So it took some time after it took me like a year actually of just resting and recovering. That's when I began to make some strides to slowly, connect with the community again, get more used to living and interacting with people in Canada again, because, the culture shock was quite, immense coming back as well, reverse culture shock. And eventually when I felt well enough to go out there again, I started to interact with many mentors and coaches, started networking, getting involved in the community again. And that really helped me boost my confidence. But it was especially meeting many different coaches, talking to them, even though at the time, I couldn't afford to see one yet, just being resourceful really helped. So I met some amazing mentors, and it really took off from there. Eventually I met an amazing employment advisor at a nonprofit employment services center in Midtown Toronto, who really guided me and counseled me and coached me and helped me see the value in my experiences that I couldn't see myself without that training and, coming from a place of low confidence. She then recommended I join an amazing youth program at the nonprofit employment center. And I really enjoyed meeting the mentors from the networking events I was attending. They shared their stories of struggle, of a nonlinear career path, and it made me feel a lot better about myself because as someone who, I was, educated but unemployed, stuck, it made me realize that this is the norm. It's very not uncommon for people to, experience a lot of challenges and struggles as they build their careers. And not long after, that's when I had the opportunity to actually work at the same center that helped me. And I was hired as a peer leader, and I began to mentor and coach my fellow young people on the value of networking and coaching and mentorship. And really, really enjoyed it. I loved what I was doing so much that I decided to pursue it seriously as a career and went back to school and got my certificate as a career development practitioner. And today I'm a career development practitioner and now a career confidence coach, continuing to help other young professionals along their career paths and, spreading the word about coaching, and more so than spreading the word, actually, doing it, sharing my story and actually coaching them and helping them see for themselves the benefit of having a coach and or mentor.
No, that's awesome. I
Thank
can
you.
imagine, right? So when you were, and as you know, and I'm sure as the listeners are listening as well, one of the things that might pop up for them is, I don't have, and this is what I've seen from, some of the people that I've worked with as well. I don't know if I have the confidence to approach people. So when you were first going through that, what was that like for you? How did you get over that fear of approaching somebody to introduce yourself so you can make that connection with them?
Good question, John. Because I think I see a lot of people in that situation as well. They know they need to network, they know they need to put themselves out there, but they're really unsure of how to do it. And then, facing unemployment, for example, long periods of time, it can really wear away at your self-confidence and ability to, freely put yourself out there. So in terms of, how to go about approaching someone, I think, we can start step by step. And sometimes it doesn't even have to start by putting yourself out there right away. It could start with, having a call with a mentor or a coach who can help guide you through the process of, doing that inner work, that uncovering what is it about you? What is it about John that makes him so unique and special? Really digging in there, coming up with those top things and being able to package and present it in an amazing way that helps people make a quick connection with you.
Okay. So that's great. And I love that because I know, you kind of have to break out of your comfort zone a little bit just to kind of make that initial introduction. So when you were doing, and I'm sure this is what you coach your clients on as well, what are some of the things or recommendations that you give to people to say, hey, you know what, this is how you make a proper introduction so you don't turn people away or you don't turn people off? What are some of those steps? Because you talked about some steps. So what do some of those steps look like?
So I usually introduce my clients to, I think everyone's probably heard of this, the elevator pitch. So I guide them through that process to, it has to be you in a nutshell. So you're going to have to give only the highlight reel of who you are in about 30 to 60 seconds, but don't make it like a robotic list. Really tell a story, a compelling story about who you are. Of course, in the shortest amount of time possible, 30 to 60 seconds. So telling them a little bit about yourself in terms of your background. It could be your educational background, your professional background, and also tie into how you got there. Tell us a little bit about what made you want to go and be an aspiring bakery owner or an aspiring water treatment engineer. What was the story behind it? That is really is what will capture people's attention. I feel like that's where the secret sauce really lies, because anyone can really give a checklist. Okay, hey, I went to University of Toronto. I graduated in 2012. I studied women and gender studies. Now I'm a career development practitioner. I'm working in this agency. But, give us a little bit of the backstory of what compelled you to get there. Because I think everyone's got a very unique, interesting, special story. And you may be surprised when you start networking that people are actually very interested in hearing about, where it is that you're coming from, what got you to that place. And that could really launch off into a whole conversation and a connection, really.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you 100%, because I think and I feel that it's important that one of the things I work on with my clients is really understanding their origin story. So what made you want to get into this type of work, right? So what made you go from, somebody who was in school and get into career development? So, you gave us a bit of that background while you were explaining what happened. And that pivotal moment for you where you're like, I'm a client of, career services. I love it so much because I understand this is how I know how to give back. And this is why you got into that career, right? So that's your origin story. And I think it's incredibly important that people know, because it also shows a few different things, right? Because when things get tough in your field of work, you can always go back to your origin story and just remember why you got into that work in the first place, right? And if you don't, and if you can tell that story to say, this is why I got into finances. Actually, and just to share a quick example, I've been working with somebody who wants to get into cybersecurity. And the reason they decided to get into the cybersecurity field is because they wanted to protect their family from cyber attacks, from phishing, from ID fraud. And this is why they got into the cybersecurity field. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is such a great reason to get into that line of work. It just tells me you're going to be passionate about it. You have purpose, you have meaning, all these things an employer wants to see outside of your technical skills, which I think are just as valid.
True.
But understanding what brings you to work every day, right? And if you can show that, that's amazing. So when you're dealing with some of your clients, Valerie, so what are some of the things or challenges that you see with them that, they have difficulties in expressing to employers or even to mentors or coaches, what's not coming across, or, if there was one thing that they could change to make those introductions a little bit better, what would you recommend that they do?
So what challenges that I'm seeing I'm seeing a lot of young professionals, very well educated, some with even graduate degrees, in between work and school, struggling with their confidence, their ability to, even go out into the world is really impeded by this sense of low self-esteem or low self-worth, this imposter syndrome that we're hearing about a lot these days. Seeing a lot of young professionals dealing with that. So that has been, something that kind of impedes them from confidently expressing themselves when they're meeting people. But over time, I have seen so many of them grow and blossom. Bit by bit, I've been able to help them build up their confidence, as they go along, continuing to connect with, guest speakers that I bring in. They have been able to really develop.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm with you 100%. I think more than anything, people who are highly skilled and highly trained and have a lot of experience, the one thing that holds them back is things like confidence. So what are some of your recommendations, or what do you do to get your clients to turn that mindset around in terms of low to medium? Let's not make crazy leaps, right? Like, let's go just from low to medium confidence instead of low to high confidence, unless you have a secret sauce for that. I'd love for you to share, with the audience on what they can do to kind of build up that confidence. So when they do approach the mentors and when they do approach the coaches, what could they do to feel better about that interaction in general?
So I like what you mentioned about, taking them through the building process step by step
Hmm.
instead of going from 0 to 100. That might be a little too much and can actually completely throw them off. So step by step, we're able to start to develop their confidence by really looking at and having an analysis of, what it is that they are really good at, what they love, their values or skills, like doing that inner work, doing the assessments that a lot of people haven't had the time to do before, or they haven't had that exposure to this type of personal development work.
Hmm.
So even before we, expose them to any mentors, they're in a workshop with me for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, where
Oh, wow.
either one-on-one or in small group settings, where we discuss not only the benefits of networking, but we discuss how to really formulate a pitch, which is really just a leeway and beginning to them developing a sense of who they are in a nutshell. Like if you only had 60 seconds to describe who you are, and you may not think of yourself as that person yet, what would you say about yourself? I've been able to help many youths turn the whole sense of self and identity around using this simple activity,
Hmm.
where they go from, okay, what am I good for? I'm good for nothing. Actually, can I tell a story, John?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was
Yeah.
just going to say, do you have a
Mhm.
story of somebody that, where you were able to turn around? Because I love these type of
Mhm.
examples. And for
Yeah.
those of you that are listening too, it's incredibly important to know, not everybody starts off at 100 level, 100% confidence at the beginning. We all kind of build up to it.
Hmm.
And, whether, I'm not going to speak for Valerie, but I know for myself, my confidence wasn't always where it is today. It's something I
Hmm.
had to build on, right? And
Same
and just
here.
so I'm glad that you're going to be covering this stuff where just for everybody to acknowledge, regardless of where you are today, you can always improve and get better.
Hmm.
So definitely keep that in mind as you're going through this. And if you're very shy and very timid, I was too several
Me
years ago,
too.
incredibly shy and timid. I'm like, oh, I don't know what I want to talk to people, and because
Wow.
I don't know if I have value to say, I don't know what
Right.
I can contribute to others.
Exactly. That's the dialogue that a lot of people have. And it's hard
Yeah.
to believe, like, I met John at a speaking event. He was on stage, he was running the whole show. It's hard to believe he was that, very timid person before.
Yeah, but it's true, right? So just to
Me
kind of
as
give every,
well.
yeah, so just and a lot of great people, right? You think
Hmm.
of some of the greatest people out there, they don't always start off center
Hmm.
stage. They kind of
Yeah,
work their way up there, but there's
absolutely.
something that you kind of need to change within yourself to get there. So yeah, no, sorry, Valerie, I didn't want to
Yeah.
take away from that, but
Yeah, no
go
worries.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay,
I'd love to
so
hear your story.
yeah, I think it'll speak for itself, and it's just a much easier way to demonstrate it. So, I would say this is probably one of the best moments of my career thus far. As I may have mentioned, I currently work with youth and young professionals. So, I work with a very diverse population. So, some of them are the youth who are, university and grad school graduates, but some of them have also had a more rougher past.
Hmm.
So even working with youth who may have gone through the criminal justice system, they may be facing high barriers like mental health issues. So back in the beginning, when I first started as a peer leader early on in my career development practitioner career, I met a young man. He was a racialized young man. He had never really thought about himself in a really, it didn't seem he really thought about himself in a very positive way. Just based on, what he told me he had been through. And we were doing our elevator pitch activity, and he was really stumped, didn't really know what to write about. And so I came over to help him, and it was the first time we were meeting. So I said, tell me a little bit more about yourself. And he said, well, I got arrested. I was like, okay. And I was in school, but I had to drop out because I got arrested. And I really don't know what else. I don't know what to say about myself for this activity, because the elevator pitch is guiding you to say, your background, your interests. And he's like, but, he was really overshadowed by, okay, I got arrested, I have a mental health issue, I am a dropout. So instead, I told him, like, okay, we're not going to go up to people and say, hey, my name is blah, 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 I got arrested, right? We're going to turn this ship around. Okay. So I asked him, well, tell me, what are some things that you're interested in? What are you passionate about? He's like, well, I want to go back to school. I want to get into the field of hospitality and travel and tourism. And so based on that information, I helped, create a quick little elevator pitch for him. And then he began to really turn around. So I said, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. Right now I am in a pre-employment and training program where I am meeting new people and developing my skills. And I'm very passionate about the travel and tourism and hospitality industry. And, in the future, I want to go back to schools and get into the field so I can share my love of travel with others. And a total light bulb went off. I could see he was like, okay. And I saw a whole 180 take place just then and there, because he had never thought about himself that way before at all. In his mind, he's like, what am I good for? I'm good for nothing. I got arrested. I'm a college dropout. I have a mental health issue. Like, where can I go with my life? Nowhere. So within the few weeks that he was in that program, I saw a huge change in his confidence when a lot of, caring adults at the center, really poured into him with mentorship, coaching. He really started to develop a stronger sense of self and confidence. And at the end, he was just so happy. He was bouncing. It just seemed like a whole new person. And towards the end, he told us before he was leaving that, you guys are my guardian angels. So it was a really special moment in my career. And I continued to help people, especially young people who may be struggling like he was, to really turn the ship around. And coaching could do so much wonders, take you from such a deep, dark place where you're just so down on yourself to really helping you see the greatness that is within you. And it is within you. Maybe you just didn't have someone to help you see that before, but that's what a coach and mentor can do.
Yeah. And that's fabulous. And thank you for sharing that story, because I can only imagine, and that's within the little time that you spent with this individual. Not only did you change what they're going to look like when they show up for their interviews, but you changed how they're going to show up in life. Right.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of it comes down to just really understanding your worth and your value. Right.
That's right.
And I know this is the stuff that you do as a coach, and, we both do it as a coach, and I love it. Like that part, it's transformative, because it's not just for a moment. It really starts to set you off on a different path, right?
100%. And who knows where, he could have been otherwise. Like, he had mentioned he was down a completely different path before. But we were really able to, help lift him up, not just for, helping him find employment, but it's really about building a character, a strong foundation.
No, and that's excellent. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, so when, and we got a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we touch on this topic. Number one, what is the difference between a mentor and a coach? Because I think that's important. I think a lot of people kind of mix up the two, and I get asked all the time, well, I'm looking for a mentor, I'm looking for a coach, and I'm not sure what I'm looking for. What are the difference between the two, Valerie?
Good question. And this is something I was also pondering as well, because I was kind of using the two terms kind of interchangeably before, but on deeper reflection, I could see a difference between the two. I would say with a coach, they're able to work with you a little bit more closely, one-on-one, give you that more closer ongoing guidance that you may need to get to the next level. So that more in-depth diving Really asking you coaching and guiding questions to help you come up with your own answers that's already within you, but a coach helps bring it out. Whereas mentors and mentorship, I see it more as someone who is a really positive figure, who is in your life, who can give you guidance, you can ask them questions based on their expertise, and extremely valuable as well, but may not, give you as much close guidance as someone who is a coach, who has the training and dedication, who can really work more closely with you to help bring you to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So are there certain characteristics for those that are out there, just I'm thinking as an audience member, I'm listening to this. So that's great. So I know the difference between a coach and a mentor. Are there any things that people should be looking for specifically in either a mentor or in either a coach? Are there like 2 or 3 characteristics that they should be looking for?
So I guess this could be like interchangeable for both coaching and mentors.
Okay.
And there's so many characteristics that I could probably list. But if I could narrow it down to maybe a top 3. Okay. Narrowing it down to top 3 is really hard because, okay. Definitely someone who is very compassionate and empathetic, who can really, understand what you're going through and, wants to see you do your best. So compassion is really important for that, because, when you first come to a coach, you may not be in the best place in life. But that's what you're hiring the coach for, is that you want to be taken from point A to point B in life, and you want some guidance with it. So definitely someone who has a lot of compassion and heart. And I usually find those people, they love what they do as well. So compassion, and I would also say someone who is very dedicated and committed. So takes their work, seriously. They put in a lot of hard work and effort to help you be the best that you can be. And I've seen that with a lot of coaches. They do really love what they do, and hence the commitment to their clients comes very naturally and very easily. And another third characteristic, so we've got compassionate, dedicated / committed. Let's see what else. Inspiring. But I think that automatically comes with being a coach. But someone who can inspire you to be the best that you can be. And I know that sounds very like cliche, like all these influencers are, throwing these terms out, believe in yourself, be the best you could be. But I think what's really special about a coach is, they are telling you those things, but they're guiding you towards it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like, I can just read a motivational book if I wanted to hear those messages. A coach is inspiring in a way where they help you level up in a very individual way. So they know your strengths, they know your talents. They've been working with you for a period of time where they can take what you have shown them and bring it back to you to help you inspire yourself with your own inspiration.
Nice.
So that you can see that you are an inspiration, that you are an amazing person.
Yeah, and I like that. That's a great point. And so they're inspiring you to inspire yourself, to inspire others.
There you go. It's like a whole loop. It's like a inspiration inception.
Yeah. And I think people forget, the importance of, and it's true. And I'm with you 100%. I think everybody who listens to this, regardless of where you think you are an inspiration to other people. Sometimes just finding a way to demonstrate that, or to show it, or to say it, so you can be the best you can be by taking, and we heard it in Valerie's story, right? When you take that opportunity to kind of step out of your comfort zone, to go do something that you're not necessarily comfortable with, you become that inspiration because you're doing something not everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just by doing that, you're already inspirational, right? So
100%. Yeah. And you never know who is, observing you or watching her getting inspired by you, and you maybe like not a big deal to you, but every little move you make, that little brick that you build in your house of confidence is really building you up. And absolutely, you never know where that could lead you. And another thing I'll throw out with confidence is often the confidence is built after you do the thing, right? So we're often waiting for someone to come along and knight us or give us that external validation to feel great about ourselves. But often it's making those moves, taking that action, and really knowing your own value and worth, which can only really come from within. That can really help you build up your confidence.
Yeah, no, and I really like how you said that. Confidence comes afterwards. It doesn't come first, right?
Yeah.
you have to do the scary stuff first before the confidence shows up. So, and it's a great reminder, Valerie, and thank you for saying that, because I think people forget that you have to do the scary stuff first, right?
Yeah.
And then you're
like a muscle.
Okay. Yeah, and then you feel confident, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So that's good. So thank you. And you shared some really great information and really great value with the audience. If people wanted to learn more about you, or if people wanted to get hold of you, where could they go to get that information, Valerie? Or even if they want to work with you. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Valerie, career confidence coach.
Excellent. So what I will make sure to do is I'll share your LinkedIn link. Your LinkedIn link. Oh, that's a lot of links. I'll share your link in the show notes with the audience members so they can connect with you directly. And I know people will reach out, just kind of listening to this and understanding, about mentoring and coaching. And you do both. So I know you kind of do both. So thanks again for being on the show. Thanks for sharing all your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience on this topic. Not only is it something that you do, but it's something that you've also gone through. And I think if I were to add another thing to your list of, confidence and, your confidence, confidence, confidence,
it's a tongue twister.
yeah. I'm like, man, a confidence and empathy and dedication and inspiration. The thing I would add is just find somebody who's open, right? And this is, and what I really like about Valerie, just kind of speaking with you, Valerie, really quickly, there's an openness about you. You want a coach and you want a mentor who's open and non-judgmental. And
yes, that's the other thing.
Yeah. And if you've got somebody like that, that's where things are really going to start to change for you. Because then you're in a safe space and you can say whatever you want. And that's where that empathy piece comes from. So
absolutely.
I'm really glad you talked about that. And it's important. So, just think about, I know we only listed off 4 things. But the list, like you said, Valerie, the list could be 100 different things. But we could do a whole show on just the list and characteristics of things you should be looking for in a coach and a mentor.
A show per characteristic, even.
No, absolutely. So thanks again for being on the show, and thanks again for sharing your value with everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, John. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks. All right, everybody. That is it for this episode of the Canadian Job Search Podcast. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to you all soon. Take care.